Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio, America's libertarian voice, broadcasting from our studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to around the world. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to popular talk radio. Today, we have a returning guest. It's Andy Sutton. He's an economist, and Andy was formerly with the financial community. However, now he's involved for the sole purpose of blowing the whistle on the corruption within the financial community and helping people around the globe become their own advocates. Today, we are going to discuss a subject which, quite frankly, makes no sense to me. I have tried to understand it. It short-circuits my brain, whatever left of my brains, and that is negative yields or negative interest rates. We're going to talk about that today. Andy, are you there? And welcome to Liberty Talk Radio.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe. Pleasure to be back. I'm here.
Okay, very good. Andy, I want to read something I think that you wrote. It says the topic we are going to tackle is the negative interest rate curve, and is being talked about a little in the media, but not nearly enough and without anything in the way of background. If you have taken finance classes, you can understand it. But if you haven't, then you're out of luck. We reject that out of hand. This is a topic that affects everyone, so understanding will not be limited to Wharton MBA types. All right, so we're saying now, without further ado, if you will, we're going to talk about negative interest rates. Now, I'll be honest with you, every time they say negative interest rates, it short-circuits my brain. I can never get the concept. I cannot understand. I can understand being negative because you have inflation higher than the rate of interest. Other than that, I'm lost. Take over, help me out, please, before I go stark raving mad.
Well, that's the
biggest thing for people to understand, really, with the negative yield curve, is just the fact that it's exactly what you said. The rate is so low that when you factor in inflation, it's like you're giving your money away for a year and you're getting less purchasing power back than what you gave them in the first place. Even after they've paid you interest, you're falling behind. Now that's one aspect of it. That's the inflation effect. Now the opposite side of that is where the interest rates themselves are actually negative. So instead of making 1% a year on a bond, say you would get negative 1% a year on a bond. So you're going into this thing agreeing that in nominal dollars you're going to come out behind the curve, and you're going to pay them money. So loan your money to them, if that makes any sense.
It makes sense. I mean, I understand it. It makes no sense, and it gives me a headache. I can't hear myself. Did I lose something just now? Hello? Yeah, I was hearing myself, and now I'm totally lost. How come I cannot hear myself? Let's see if I can hear myself. I guess I can. Am I okay? Okay. I'm sorry, Andy. We've had every problem
It's all right.
mankind that could happen to a board. It happened in the past couple of weeks. Well, to me, the economists that are sort of within the political realm of each country, they're all advocating negative interest rates. Now, it can't be that worldwide, in all different types of economies around the world, whether it be the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere, east and west, think that negative interest are in consensus that negative interest rates is a damn good idea and will take us out of this economic slump. Now, there's got to be at least one. I mean, one guy saying, excuse me, Bob, that makes no sense. But none of them are saying it. It has to be when I say conspiracy, I don't mean a conspiracy in the clandestine sense, but there's got to be a reason for the madness, and it has to be benefiting certain people, and these people know that the end game is near, and those people who are buying into negative interest rates are going to be eating dirt soon. Have I gone stark raving mad at this point?
No. It is a conspiracy, but it's not. It's like you said. It's not a clandestine, little guys sneaking around in bushes kind of conspiracy. Really, what it is, it's kind of like when you go back to the days of Columbus. You had Columbus was there, and he's saying, "Hey, the Earth's round." And he had all these other guys saying, nah, you're crazy. The world's flat. Go sail off in your ships. You're going to fall off the edge. Well, Columbus proved them wrong. Well, this is why I call Keynesian economics flat Earth thinking, because that's what it is. Unfortunately, and my co-writer, Graham, he'll tell you the same thing, because he went to Wharton, so that was a crack on him. that's what we were taught. Him and I, we both went to different schools. He went to Wharton, I went to a little school nobody's ever even heard of. We were taught the exact same stuff. Flat Earth. The Earth is flat, negative interest rates, fiat money, deficit spending. I mean, just national debt. Go right down the line. We were taught the exact same stuff. And the sad thing is, like, if you want to get into a big firm, if you want to get into a position where you're going to be influencing policy, if you want to get into any kind of prestigious academic kind of situation, you have to subscribe to this flat earth thinking, because this is what benefits the establishment. And when I say the establishment, some people call it Illuminati. Well, I'm not into all the buzzwords. I call it the establishment. I'm talking about elite bankers, people that are basically ripping off the rest of the world, and that's what inflation is. It's a ripoff, and that's what negative interest rates are. That's another ripoff. That's what this is benefiting. All right, and you need to carry the water for this whole mess. These guys know that it's bull. I mean, I think there's a few that probably are deluded enough to think that this is going to somehow work out. But for the most part, it's a snicker, laugh. Yeah, hey, let's do the negative interest rates. Hey, Janet, don't raise, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. I think for the most part, these guys know what is going on. They know that this is it's insane, and they know that it's not going to benefit the little guy, at least not for long. And it's all about short term. Everything's short term. So we went ahead and we took this thing a step further, even more crazy than the negative yield curve, which I think people can understand pretty easy. All the yield curve is, it's what the government does. I was focusing on the U.S. government when we decided to come up with this piece. I said, let's just focus on the U.S. I think the rest of the guys will get it. And they did. The curve is just, if you go and plot what the rate is for the 30-day Treasury bill and go all the way out to 30 years, and you plot all those points, it's going to make a shape. The 30-day is like 0.1%, whatever it is, and the 30-year is like 2 point something. So it's good. You're going to have this curve, and that's the yield curve. All right, and then what you have is, and if you look at the piece, what I did is I did the graphic, so I dropped in that line where the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, the cooked, butchered, fabricated, birth-death model, BS, BLS, Labor Department inflation price statistic, where that falls. And then you can see that these these various treasury bills, notes, bonds, they're all falling below that level. So I think the average person can make that easy jump and say, all right, yeah, you know what, in real terms, I'm losing money. In nominal terms, you know what, I'm going to give them $1,000 and I'll get back $1,005, whatever the case may be. All right, but in real terms, the purchasing power, I'm losing money. Even the government admits I'm losing money. When you start talking to people on the street and look at your own financial circumstances, you'll see that you're losing a lot more than they say you're losing. What people have a harder time understanding is the fact that that bond, that bill, that note, is you lending the government money, and you're paying them to do it. They're supposed to pay you. The way this whole thing is contrived, this NIRP, NIRP, negative interest rates to perpetuity, all these idiots that are advocating this, they're saying that, U.S. Treasury bonds are so good that not only should you not get paid for owning them, you should pay for the privilege of lending the U.S. government your money. And what I'd like to do is take that concept right there. You should pay them so that they could borrow money from you. And then look at their suitability as a borrower. All right, if the U.S. government had a FICO score, it'd probably be like 6.
You think it'll be that high?
Not 600. It'd be 6. It might be negative. Maybe it'd be a negative FICO score.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, that's what we looked at in the last installment of that series, is the short, Larry Kolikoff has done an outstanding job doing the long term, handling the multi-generational aspect of that. So we decided, you know what, let's not, I mean, he's done the work. There's no need to do it again. Let's look at the short term. Let's look at the next 10 years and see what the next 10 years looks like. So that's what's coming out tonight, is the next 10 years from the mouthpiece that's known as the Congressional Budget Office, which I might say, out of all the government reporting agencies and so forth that do this kind of stuff, they're probably one of the best ones. And they have the biases built in too, but they're not quite as egregious as say, the Labor Department or the Commerce Department or the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and some of these other outfits that come up with this zany, cookbook chemistry, statistic reporting. So we went with their projections, and they do them for 10 years, and it's every year there's a government budget that gets passed. They go and look at what the impact is going to be for the next 10 years. We thought, hey, you know what, let's do that. Let's look at 10 years, and let's see what the situation is here. So if you could pardon me and give me a few minutes here, I want to quote a few pieces from this latest report, and I think you'll find it very interesting. All right, and this is a quote. This is from the report. Under the assumption that current laws will generally remain unchanged, the budget deficit is projected to decline in 2016 to $455 billion, or 2.4% of GDP, and then to hold roughly steady relative to the size of the economy through 2018. Beyond that time, however, the gap between spending and revenues is projected to grow faster than GDP. The deficit in 2025 is projected to reach 1.0 trillion, or 3.8% of GDP, and cumulative deficits over the 2016 to 2025 period are projected to total $7.2 trillion. And these people want us to give them money for nothing.
Can I extrapolate from what you just said?
Right here.
Not only are
I'm gonna
you
have a
paying
stroke.
them, right, to give them your money, but when it comes time for them to pay you back, they don't have the money, so they're going to tax you, take it out of your pay, so they can give it back to you. Now, there's
another spin-off there too. When it's time to pay you, they don't have the money, so they're going to borrow more money from you to pay you back for the first
They're going to
loan.
be taxed so they can pay off the bond in the first place. So you're going to be paying 2 and 3 times for the privilege of giving them money and then get nothing back in return. Now, if that, let me go even further. If that doesn't work, and all of a sudden there's a financial crisis, all they'll do is start a war to divert your attention from your poverty, the amount of money you lost, but you have to now be patriotic because, those Russians in Syria are terrible. We have to go there and bomb, so we'll start a war to divert the attention, of which
absolutely.
we're going to take more money out of your pocket because we have no money to finance this war, so we're going to take it from you. We're going to leave you not only in abject poverty, but in abject, absolute debt that you'll never get out of, but there'll be a few people in Washington who are going to get mighty rich through their connections with the war machine. And it seems like no matter what they do, it's a lose-lose proposition for the citizen, and it's a win-win for those people in Washington.
Oh, absolutely, and that's part of what I call the establishment. That's the group. Some people call them the 1%. I mean, whatever you want to label it, it doesn't really matter. It's the group of people, the cui bono, who benefits. Who's benefits? Somebody's benefiting. If all this money is owed, it's owed to somebody. Okay? Whether it's the Chinese, the Russians, it don't matter. It's owed to somebody. So somebody's going to benefit. This sham that goes on right now, and you guys, you neocons out there, I know they listen. You guys aren't going to like this paper, all right? I'm telling you right now because I'm sticking it right in your ear. I'm sick and tired of this. We have to have, and this is why they said on 9/11, we have to have, this is going to be a 100-year war. You know how they knew that? Because they knew that everything changed. They knew that the consumer was not going to be able to continue to prop up the U.S. economy, even by borrowing money like crazy. I mean, yeah, they pushed it out quite a bit longer, and they'll probably push it out even some more yet still. But the fact of the matter is, how much is the average idiot going to be willing to borrow to prop this mess up? I mean, there's going to be a point in time, and I don't know when it is. I don't know where it is, but somewhere the light bulb's going to go on, and people are going to be like, you know what, this is stupid. What are we doing this for? Our monthly wages aren't even enough to make our interest payments. And that's basically where the government's at. I mean, that's where they're going to be at. And it's funny. Can I read another paragraph? You'll get a kick out of this. Yeah, and I quote again, with such deficits, the Congressional Budget Office projects that the federal debt held by the public would amount to 73 or 74% of GDP. Notice that's not all the debt, that's just the debt held by the public. All right, we explained that in the paper. All right, over the next several years, more than twice what it was at the end of 2007. This thing's going exponential, it's going parabolic, and more than in any previous year since 1950. And then there's a figure you can reference. By 2025, in CBO's baseline projections, federal debt held by the public rises to 77% of GDP. So what we did is we went and said, well, you can't just say the debt held by the public. You got to talk about the whole $19.3 trillion that's owed. It's not the stuff that Social Security owes to the general fund or to whatever. Trust fund, they call that intergovernmental borrowings. They don't count that because we owe it to ourselves. It's still debt. We're going to get the money to pay it. So we counted it all right now. All right? The debt to GDP ratio, the total debt, national debt, GDP, 117%. You know when Greece got in trouble? 103%. You know when the pigs got in trouble, the rest of them? Right around that same level. We're on borrowed time. All right, that's short-term, 10 years. Right now, we're at 117%.
Now, I understand, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, real economists say anything over 90% of GDP, over 90% of GDP is really in the danger zone. Am I correct?
Yeah. When you start getting to the point where, and then that's just the debt. Then it goes on to the next page. It gets even better. Yeah, I've heard 90, 75, anywhere in that ballpark, you're starting to get into trouble because you're reaching the situation where you're threatening your credibility by basically becoming a deadbeat and saying, okay, I bought a $50,000 truck and I make $12,000 a year. That's kind of along the lines of where we're going here.
Absolutely.
All right. We bought a $117,000 truck and we make $100,000 a year. That's a mathematically accurate illustration of what we're at right now. So we owe more than a year's income, on this truck. When you start getting the levels this high, you start having credibility problems, and this is where the war comes in. Because guess what? This is hegemony right here. What we're talking about, dollar hegemony. All right, U.S. government debt, hegemony. It will be maintained with the missile. All right? Don't misunderstand that. You nailed it right on the head. It will be maintained by missile, by gunfire, by bombs. Anybody who threatens this hegemony gets a bomb in their bed between their pillows. That's how it works. All right? You don't mess with this. These guys don't screw around. And see, the problem now is they're butting up against the big boys. It's not just, little Iraq, little Iran, and it's not even little Iran because they got good friends. Little North Korea, little Gaddafi, this bad guy, that bad guy, the other bad guy, all these great human rights champions, that the presidential schmuck on TV show like to talk about, but they want to bomb everybody to oblivion, like a bunch of hypocrites. But anyway, I digress. It gets better. I appreciate you permitting me to do this here.
Can I tell you a personal story, something that happened just yesterday?
Sure.
I'm of the era of the 1940s and 1950s. That's my era, right? And when you grow up in that era, especially from immigrant parents who, I mean, worked day and night, to make sure there was bread on the table, you learn certain things. My father worked 7 days a week, 6 days a week. He took off Sunday and sometimes Saturday afternoon. Everyone worked very, very hard. No one took a penny from anyone. Everyone helped each other out. Family ties were very strong. And it was an old saying. They say, you work hard, you make $10 a week, but you save 11. I mean, I know mathematically that makes no sense. I understand that. But I mean, there was sort of that sense that you worked hard, but when you obtained some money, you didn't spend it. I mean, you made do with what you had. You made things to live, or whatever, even if you had to do it in your own home. But you saved that money, and it was real money at the time. And today, just on the radio the other day, they said that now you could have, in Tulsa, you have what they call credit immunity if you want to buy a car. And that is if you earn, I'm not kidding you, I got to send you the tape of this thing. It's insane.
Please.
If you make gross $299 a week, you can get financing on any car you want. $299 a week. Now, then they came out with immunity. If you already owned a car and you were underwater in that car, they will buy that back. In other words, you'll have underwater immunity. It's insane. Anything to move the car. Now, I'll
give you a sub.
And this is just 2 days ago. This is not months ago. All right. Yesterday, I received a call. I have a 1996 Subaru. It's a great car. Head gasket problem. They called me up. They said they have a great deal for me. They can fix it for $2,700. Now the car is worth about $800. It's 20 years old. Right?
Don't tell me you fixed it.
Yeah, I said, well, and I did the now. Let me tell you something. I can go out and buy myself a Lamborghini with cash, but I'm not going to do it. Right? So I said, wait a minute. Let me do some math on that. I called my insurance agent, found out that the additional insurance on a new car would be $700-800 additional a year because of the liability and all this other stuff on it, And also the excise taxes and whatever would be another $1,500. And I said, after 1 year, I'm in the black, and I don't have a $30,000 note on my hands. So I said, fix the car. Now, I would say 99 people out of 100 would say, oh, well, it's time for the car to go. I'll buy the new car, go $30,000 in debt, although I can't pay for it. But that's what you're saying. But I'm doing the exact opposite.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm one in a million guys. I feel like I'm in this lonely island. I'm all by myself because everyone thinks I'm nuts for doing it. Everyone thinks you're crazy for doing that.
See, this is what got the country to the point where we were great, is what you mentioned. People worked and they saved. They made stuff at home. They made do. All that savings, that became capital. That capital became available to the economy to do other stuff. You could lend it to somebody who was looking to do, some sort of entrepreneurial venture or something like that, or somebody who was looking to expand an existing venture. There was capital available. You didn't create it from nothing. It wasn't when they start doing this, the fiat, the creating the money from thin air. What it does is it dilutes and destroys that savings, that genuine savings, that capital. All right. And that's what we've done. We've gotten to the point where we've destroyed it. Let me read another paragraph, and it'll prove to you that the Congressional Budget Office, the Economist, they get this. Here, check this out. Such high and rising debt would have serious negative consequences for the nation. When interest rates return to more normal, typical, higher levels, not if, but when, federal spending on interest payments would increase substantially. Moreover, because federal borrowing reduces national saving over time, the nation's capital stock, that's what I'm talking about, the capital stock would ultimately be smaller, and productivity and total wages would be lower than they would be, if the debt was smaller. It's right there. The CBO. These guys get it. They understand what is going on. They know what this is doing. So these guys, nobody in D.C., New York, Brussels, or anywhere else can sit there and claim ignorance on this. There's nobody, because everybody knows. All right, even these deluded, idiotic, graduate school professors that we ran across, that you back them into a corner on some of this stuff, and they'd say, "Well, it's that way because I said that's how it is." Even those guys, you know what? They're not granted a free pass either. You want to influence minds, you got a responsibility. You give out the wrong information, you got a responsibility, and their responsibility lies on the head of the next generation.
It's interesting in that when I was growing up, I recall my mother going shopping. I mean, not shopping to the grocery store, because the grocery store, we lived on top of the grocery store. She used to send me downstairs, give me 37 cents, and she'd tell me exactly what to buy, and I'd run downstairs and run back up. Morris's grocery store, right? On the corner of 123rd Street, First Avenue, Anyway, but I remember my mother going actual shopping, like for clothing, twice a year. She used to go to Bloomingdale's and Macy's, and she used to make a day of it. And I know, because when I was a little kid, I used to go with her and have to trail along and whatever, and my aunt used to go with her. And it was a big deal. Twice a year they did that. But yet today, people are doing that every weekend, all weekend, and sometimes during the week when they have a Thursday sale. And I think to myself, how did the economy grow when there were more people like my mother, people from immigrants and whatever, who were shopping twice a year, when today they're shopping 3 times a week, and yet our economy is weaker? I don't understand it.
That's exactly why it's weaker, because you don't have the genuine capital available for reinvestment. It's all funny money, and this is what happens. The funny money, it's like a rotten apple ruining the whole basket, or a cancer, that destroys the host. That's what this fiat money is. It's a cancer that destroys the host, and the host is the U.S. economy, and it's being hollowed out. And in my opinion, it's being done deliberately because it's theft, it's robbery, is what it is. I mean, you've got people that, and they've signed on the bottom line to this. So I don't really have a lot of sympathy for people, but you've got people that are going to wake up every day for the rest of their life owing somebody for something that they bought that they probably didn't need, that they couldn't pay for. And it's not just the federal government. It's the states, it's the municipalities, it's the people. It's all top to bottom, bottom to top, and every layer in between. Everybody, this whole globe is hooked. Look at Europe. I mean, we're not the only ones. They're further along than we are. They're realizing the consequences sooner because they don't have that hegemony. That's the only reason why we haven't had a problem yet, a big problem. And 2008 was a big problem, but I'm talking like a major, lifestyle changing event. Is because they don't have that hegemony with the currency. And the hegemony, again, it's backed by the bombs, it's backed by the military. Because who else, what are we going to do? You're going to say to somebody, well, you need to borrow U.S. dollars. You need to use U.S. dollars in your transactions so that we can keep the demand for dollars high. Pound sand, America. Well, we got the bombs. Oh. But here's the problem. Now you're starting to butt up heads against the Chinese. They're building up big military presence. You're butting heads against the Russians. There's all kinds of provocation going on right now. Putin's saying stuff. He's warning us. You look at that post that I put up on the blog a couple weeks ago, and I had people email me and say, what are you, a Putin sympathizer? What are you, a communist? People are stupid. They don't even understand what communism is. No, I'm not a Putin sympathizer. I think he's just as big an idiot as the people that we have. But he's right about some of the things he's saying.
I never thought in my life.
Me either. I know what you're going to say.
I would listen to our president and have feelings of distrust, disgust, almost anger, and then I would listen to Putin, and although I know he's got his problems and his, but I give more credence to what he is saying than our president. And I go, I should never admit this because people think I'm a communist, I'm anti-American, but you can't help but get this impression that what he has more substance in what he's saying. Syria's right on his border, and we have troops we're supporting because we want to put a pipeline through Syria. We'll do anything to depose their duly elected president so we can put a pipeline through, our allies could put a pipeline through there and we can make some cash out of it, and Putin is a little upset about it, and yet he's the bad guy. I don't understand that at all. And it seems like everything we say, you have to better know your history, you have to understand the Constitution, understand why we're doing what we're doing, understand the international events, because if you just listen to the just the headlines, it's a total lie, a total misconception.
Yeah, that's
the thing. Everybody paints Russia out to be, the instigator and the bad guy in this whole Syria situation. I mean, there's pretty reliable information. That whole chemical weapon thing, if you remember back, it was 2014. That was pulled off by the United States as an attempt to try to blame Assad so they could give cover, so we could go in there and get rid of them. And the Russians, I wrote about this back in 2013 when that pipeline deal got cut. I said Russia's not going to leave his side. They're not going to do it because that affects. It's not just Syria. What that affects is, Russia's got, like it or not, a natural gas monopoly in Europe. They've turned Europe off on a couple of occasions, and it's been pretty well documented for various reasons. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Well, Unical and others want to break these monopolies, and so Syria becomes very critical because that's the easiest place to run a pipeline. Saudi Arabia said, no, you're not doing it. They still wield some influence. So they said, no, you're not running it through here. You're running through Assad's territory. And Assad said, no way, we're not doing that. He's allied with the Russians. So we've come to the pretty close to the precipice of something really bad happening already over this deal in Syria.
It's all for money for the select few. And there's nothing. No one ever mentions the Constitution when they're talking about foreign policy. The Constitution says, hey, we're not involved in any other country. We have the Pacific Pond on one side, the Atlantic Pond on the other. It divorces us from all the foreign entanglements, all of the old world curses that have been going on between countries. We don't have to screw with it. We can just focus on being a free country, being productive, and being wealthy ourselves, and at the same time, free trade with everyone. But that is totally violated 100%, and we have to be in every country telling everyone. And there are people that I consider pretty bright, educated, pretty successul people, and they'll say things, but we're the world's policemen. How can we not do this?
Who gave us that role anyway?
I never know how to answer. I look at them like, have you lost your mind? I give them this look, and I never know how to answer it because it's such a stupid comment. It's like negative interest rates. It doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? There's someone in Angola, by the way, who robbed a house. We better send policemen over there right away. Where does it start? Where does it stop? It doesn't make any sense.
But see, here's the thing with that whole deal is we're only the world's policemen if you have some kind of resource that we might want, or you've got ties to some kind of resource we might want. If there's human violations going on in a place like Liberia, Burkina Faso, Kuala Lumpur, places like this, where these noted atrocities have gone on, where's the world's police? Where are they? Where's our great government? Helping those people. We're nowhere to be found. We're only in the rich spots. In the oil spots. The critical strategic resource, strategic position spots. That's where you'll find the world's police. That's a joke. Anybody who believes that needs to have their head examined. Just look at the history. That's where we've always been. Since we, kind of self-assimilated ourselves into that role. Back in the beginning of the 1990s. We've gone to the hot spots, the money spots. That's all this establishment is interested in. They don't care if people get beheaded. We got human rights violations going on right in our own country, and we don't even do anything about it. And but all these people are going to hold the moral high ground. It's ridiculous. But that's the whole. Getting back to the point of these articles. And what we're trying to get across is the creditworthiness of this institution that calls itself the U.S. government and issues debt and then has the unmitigated gall to say that this is backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. I'm serious. If they gave out FICO scores to that government, it'd be like 2. I mean, it's ridiculous, and their own sub-institutions, their own agencies write this kind of stuff. They know, and then you take a look at, I hope the article really makes an impression on people. You look at and then you get to the entitlements. You take a look at the entitlement spending. The projection 2 years ago was that by 2023, the entitlements would basically eat up all of the government's revenues, based in today's dollars. So the economy is going to have to grow one heck of a lot, which it's not supposed to, according to these guys, to provide more taxes to pay for all these entitlements.
And that's never going to happen. Andy, we have about 14 minutes left before we lose our line. Our time is up. But what I'd like to spend the next 10 minutes at least on is, I think we all know that the economy cannot continue to go the way it's going. We're heading for, at best, if we want to be nice about it, a major correction, spelling some sort of depressionary era, or worse than that. I tend to think it's going to be worse because we've given the dead patient so much morphine, we think the patient's alive. And we ran out of morphine, patient is dead, and it's not a matter of resurrecting it, we have to find someone new. It looks like we have to almost do away with everything and almost start from scratch. Am I being an alarmist? Am I exaggerating the situation, or am I just being a negative person, or what?
No, I'm gonna give everybody a little bit of shock here. It already happened. It already happened. For a long time. From about the 50s, right after World War II, up until turn of the century-ish, somewhere in that ballpark, it was the U.S. consumer, and that was you had the one income household. Then mom went to work. Then we started going into debt. We've been down this road a bunch of times. We've talked about this stuff, and then we got to the point. Maybe you could make the argument, the housing bubble up to maybe 2006. Well, then it became obvious. Well, we got to transition to something else, because this idea of this consumer-based, debt-driven, borrow till you drop economy, that's not going to carry us for the next 100 years. What are we going to do? Well, they told us on 9/11, it's going to be war. And what if we had ever since we transitioned from a period? You had the Cold War and you had these little skirmishes going on, but from basically the 1990s. Through the present time has been an overlap and a transition from a consumer-driven economy to a war-driven economy. That's what's happened. It's already taking place. And all of this stuff that you're mentioning, I think the biggest thing people can do is understand that none of this happens overnight. Everybody's looking for that sharp drop, the sudden crash. People make movies, little YouTube things and whatnot every summer about when the market crashes in the fall. It sounds cool. It really does. It may make a great book. That's not how this is going to work. That's not how it's happening. It's already happening. That's what people need to understand. This is not some coming future event. Some of this is already history. The early part of this has already happened. It's already history. It's already in the books. We're undergoing a huge transformation right now from this consumerism to warism, for lack of a better word. And obviously the debt thing, that's going to continue. That's going to be the underpinning of this whole thing, because we can't do it on productivity. That was a big lie. We're not going to do it on. We're crying out loud. What are we going to do? We're going to add all these people to the workforce and have them do what? The workforce levels are just they're multi-decade lows. You look at all these different things: monetary velocity, liquidity traps, all this kind of stuff that's going on right now is because all this fake money was created to grease
this machine, if you will. And there's so much sloshing around. It ruined all the good stuff. It ruined the incentive to save. It ruined and by function, it ruined the incentive to create capital, real capital. It's just borrow, spend, maybe make a payment, borrow, spend, go to war.
You know, my occupational health testing company is a great bellwether for the economy, because what we do is we do occupational health testing in places that produce things, factories, for example. And I just spoke with my son this morning. He said not only is volume down, it's not down too far, he says, but it's decreasing every month. He said, but the ability for the people to pay for what we're doing is becoming increasingly difficult, and our accounts receivable are going through the roof, and we're having a very, very tough time collecting from those people who have agreed to do what they're supposed to be doing. And so we are a great bellwether, and now instead of being a company that's profitable, and we are profitable, but now we're at a point of conserving enough cash so we can make payroll. I mean, this is not the way it's supposed to work. We're not getting any better, although we're more efficient. You know, we do a good job, and we have good customer base, and good volume and the whole bit. It is extremely, extremely difficult to stay out of debt and stay in business at the same time.
And think about this. I'm sure your son understands this also, because you've taught him. You guys get it. You're a business owner that gets it. You understand what's going on, and you're operating your business in such a manner. What about all the people that have no clue? I have a friend of mine. He's part of a marketing company startup up here in northeast Pennsylvania, and his comment to me regarding how things are going. He's like, nobody follows through. He's like, everybody wants to do business, wants to talk, wants this, wants that. Nobody follows through because there's money, but it's in pockets. The small business, the small startups, they don't have it. There's not many of them, and even the medium-sized ones, they want to do all this stuff, but they can't pay for it. So it's echoing, what you're saying. Now, granted, that's probably not such a bellwether. At least not on the manufacturing side. These guys deal more with service companies, but even there on the service side. And that was what everybody said, it's not going to be remember that? It was the manufacturing economy transitioning over to a service economy. Well, we're building all these restaurants and malls, and you look around you, and right down the street from where they're building a brand new shopping mall, there's a shopping mall that already exists with half the stores empty. It's insanity. This is patently insane what is going on here. But this is what is benefiting. This is what's benefiting this small establishment that we talked about back at the top of the show. This is what's benefiting those people, and this is the way they're going to push things. And they've got the media pushing for them. They've got the government as an enforcement arm. That's really all the government is now. It's an enforcement arm for business. Wall Street needs this. Hey, we need a bailout. Get us some money. What does the government do? They go and they twist some worms and they get the money. We need financial reform so we can bail in your FDIC insured deposits. Oh, wait, we're not going to tell you that. Even though we passed the bill, we're still not going to tell you what's in the bill. We said we would, but we're not going to now because you don't need to know that stuff.
Well, when the bill is presented to Congress, it's 1,207 pages long. They give it to it.
And nobody reads anything.
They give it to it at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, and Wednesday at 8 o'clock they're going to vote on it.
Yeah.
And of course, if you couldn't get past the first page without having 14 attorneys disagreeing or trying to decipher what it says in the first page.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even the summary page. I mean, the first page. And
the title page.
And then these clowns that are so concerned about our economy, they're conservative, they vote for it, because it sounds good, because it has a soundbite name on it, and if we don't vote for it, you look like a real slime ball, like you don't care about the people, and no one's brave enough to do the right thing anymore.
Well, after 2008, you're not in favor of financial reform? You anti-American, you communist. You Putin communist, you. Seriously, I totally agree with you. I have more, I don't know if I'd call it what the right word is, regard, respect, I put more credibility in what comes out of Moscow than what I do what comes out of Washington, and that's sad.
I feel the same way.
And you know what? Don't even sit there and say, people, oh, you jerk, you this, you that. Washington, you earned it. You earned the distrust. Your approval rating's 4%. Give me a break. It's not just us.
You know, and it's interesting that if you look at the Beltway, the richest people on the entire United States, I'm on average now, not the richest person, but the richest group of people work and live inside the Beltway. Some of the poorest people are right outside the Beltway. I mean, just across the street, you'll find the poorest people in the United States, and most of them on public assistance. Doesn't that tell you something? I mean, just look at that alone and forget everything else that we've said, all international affairs, the economy, the growth, the debt, the gross national product, trade, the Baltic Dry Index. Forget all that stuff. Just look at that. Doesn't that tell you something? And yet people don't want to look at anything. They just want to hear the sound bite and then say, well, we've been here before. We've worked through it. We'll work through it again. Everything's fine. I'm going to buy that new truck for $58,000.
And lest people accuse us of having socialist leanings, I don't have any problem with rich people. I don't have any problem with somebody who works hard, does something, takes a big risk, puts their own neck on the line, and goes somewhere with it and does something huge. I got no problem with that. What I have a problem with is people that use leverage to get inside the government, which is supposed to be there to redress grievances, of the people, as the First Amendment says, petition the government for redress of grievances. When the government starts taking sides and starts, spiking the punch, so to speak, in favor of, this group or that group or, crony capitalism, whatever you want to call it. That's what I have a problem with. And then by the same token, you have people, that are lazy and they shouldn't have anything really because they don't want to work at all, and they're able, and I see that every day. But you have a lot of people that are kind of in the middle of this whole thing who have been the product of this parasitic infection, this cancer that's destroyed and hollowed out our economy to the point where people can't earn a living wage, doing whatever it is they were trained to do. I'm not talking about fast food workers. That's a different story. I'm talking about professionals, tradesmen, things like that. They can't find work because of all these discombobulations, with capital and the economy and so forth. It's despicable. I remember when I was in probably junior high, Professor Kolikoff was probably given a speech to Congress on how they needed to reform Medicare that day, or Social Security. That's how long ago it was. That's how long these guys knew that this was going on, by the way, at least the early 80s. I was in Washington for a class field trip, and I remember the teachers talking about all the panhandlers that you'd see within blocks of the Capitol and the White House, and they even remarked then, how could the greatest country on earth, have this happening, right here in our own capital. It's truly amazing. In a sad way, some of the stuff that has gone on to benefit,
Andy,
this small establishment.
We have a minute or so left. I just want to make one comment. One thing scary that I heard from Gerald Celente the other day. He said Silicon Valley will be our next Rust Belt, and maybe that should be a topic of our next meeting. Okay, I'd like to give you the next 30 seconds, 45 seconds before, so we don't get shut out, for you to close out this program, please.
We've been doing some new things here over at the blog, Extemporanea, AndySutton.com. We've been trying to encourage people to get on there and comment on the postings, and there's been some pretty good discussion that's been going on there. So this paper that I've been kind of waving in your face and acting crazy with is going to get posted hopefully tonight, as soon as I can get somebody to proof it. And I hope it provokes some serious thought on the part of people. Our next piece is going to actually talk about this transition that's taken place and what people can do. How do you save somebody 50 years in advance? everybody's worried about grandchildren, great-grandchildren. How do you protect somebody 50 years out in time? That's what we're going to try to address going forward here as we continue to, engage in this effort.
Okay, Andy, thank you so much for being on our program. I hope you will accept that invitation to return at a later date and very soon.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure being here. Thank
you so much. Great program. Thank you so much. Folks, this is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for the financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends, but let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. As my wife would say, you're either allowing your liberties to be taken away or you're striving to protect them. Unfortunately, folks, there is no middle ground. Until next time, this is Joe Cristiano. You've been listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Stay well, stay tuned.